Hello again, Stretchwalk. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and this one, like the one yesterday, is a melee oriented setup, but here we also have the minions being a big part of the build. The minions who shoot melee projectiles, melee damage with their projectiles, and they scale off of our melee damage. And this is again a Graveborn+Stabbo setup. I've decided to call it the Snake Cover. It's a very interesting build, very good, much better than the one from yesterday, but much squishier, unless you equip it with a shield that has some more survivability, but the shield I've equipped lets us get some more damage due to certain things. More about that in the gear segment. So I hope you enjoyed this build, buckle up and let's go. As usual, I will start with the skill points. As you see, I have gone towards the Graveborn capstone, Morheim's Blessing, but I will include in the description a version of the build for those who want to go for an Executioner's Blade setup. So most likely you will have to sacrifice some of those points here, including some of those points in that side to get enough to invest into this, but you can check the description and there will be a link for that one setup. Now let's quickly go through why I've invested in those skills. This one's maxed out for the melee damage, spell damage, and even the gun damage. Then here we've got some melee attack speed and movement speed. The attack speed is why I need that. The melee damage is the thing I need the most from here, by the way. Here we need this thing, and whenever we deal gun damage, we increase our melee damage, and we trigger this with the live wire SMG. So a must-have item if you want to trigger this without needing to use your gun. Then this one is very nice. Exploit their weakness. Extra damage for each status effect. I'm using a lightning weapon with lightning hydras, and I've got some dark damage from my dark hydras, and I've got an item that lets me get extra fire damage from my shield, from my body rune. And that fire damage, even if I don't have any base of fire damage, still applies, and that means I can stack at least 3 of those. Ideally, if you have some barrels on the map, you can do poison and frost as well, but that's how this goes. Then what do? Let's move on to the Graveborn. By the way, I'm using Reaper of Bones, and I think it's amazingly synergized with that setup. But if you feel like you don't like Reaper of Bones, you can play around with From the Shadows or Ghost Blade. I wouldn't recommend Dire Sacrifice though, as it doesn't have a duration, and we want those enchantments that are while action skill is active and stuff like that. Now, Mortal Vessel 5 out of 5, I decided to go that way for a little bit more survivability and for dark magic efficiency, which again helps survivability. Faithful Trials, very important for this build. The more minions, the more damage we get. We have 3 Hydras, we have our Gammy Leech, and with our Snake Stick, which is the melee weapon I recommend for this setup, we get even more Hydras, and they boost our damage, and I'm assuming this damage also boosts their own damage, but it also gives us a respawn rate, which is amazing, because we will be killing the Gammy Leech will die every now and then from Reaper of Bones, and it will take some hits for us from Dread Covenant, so this one is good to have respawn rate. Dark Pact must have that 5 points here. I also must have 3 points here. This one is optional, but I think it goes very nicely because it gives us 10 stacks of 6% maximum HP and 6% spell damage, and for a long duration I think it's amazing. This one, it's optional for people to get it, but it goes very nicely with Reaper of Bones where you're about to get wrecked. So it's good, but if you don't need that point, you can put it elsewhere, like here or there, or even here if you feel like it, or even there. I don't like this one. I tried it, not a fan of it. Maybe you need to stack a ton of ability damage for this to actually work. This one, it's an amazing skill to trigger our Q skills. It means it can jumpstart our Hydras. It can jumpstart some extra bonuses for us. So it's pretty solid, and it triggers other Q skills, which obviously if you invest into Q skills like this one and some other ones, you can get them as well. But overall, it's a good setup, and I like it. It's not flexible, but keep in mind, you need those points you've invested into certain places. For the stats, I would put everything into... I would max out HP and ward for survivability, and then I would probably put points into spell cooldown or attunement. And the rest, it's up to you. Some people might go for more crit. Some people might prefer better cooldowns. I prefer better cooldowns and survivability, but you might want to do it otherwise. Keep in mind we get cooldown reduction here for the action skill, so maybe focusing on spell cooldown rather than action skill would be better. Now let's talk about the recommended items. You definitely want a good, ideally chaotic or higher snake stick with decent enchantment. More about enchantments at the end of this segment. I'll just list them so we can save some time in the video. It will also be written in my website for those enchantments. Volatiles seem to have been maybe removed from the game as drops. I've been noticing the past 5 days, I haven't seen a single one, not even a purple or blue volatile item. They either removed volatiles as drops or I'm just extremely unlucky. But if you can still get volatiles, obviously try to get volatile, otherwise just go for whatever you can get. Chaotic is not a bad. And yeah, the snake stick is amazing. It's a built around me item and I wanted to build around it, and that's the build around this item. What you also want as amazing synergy, as I mentioned, is the life wire. The life wire is a weapon where if you melee an enemy, it creates a chain between you and the enemy, a lightning damage chain which triggers gun damage procs, such as I mentioned, you can trigger a follow up with it, which is amazing. And ideally you would want a liquid cooling that has, like this one, X2, and with good reload repair time, I mean, with good fire rate, and ideally some crit damage, crit chance, etc. increases. So I haven't seen a live wire that has melee damage on it. But you would be meleeing while the live wire is in your hand. I don't switch to this unless I need to shoot something far away. That would require more shooting than a few shots from the live wire, which live wire, again, it's very weak in terms of damage, but it's for our melee purposes, for those triggers. When it comes to rings, obviously you would want some melee ones. I couldn't find a melee base with melee crit chance and crit damage. The melee crit chance and crit damage are amazing. And I think the melee crit chance from rings is additive and not multiplicative, meaning 17.8 would give me real 17.8. Either I was seeing a bug or that's what is happening. So prioritize if you can get rings with melee crit chance and crit damage. And ideally action skill duration. Again, you don't need action skill cooldown as much because of your Q skill and stuff, but get something with action skill duration if you can. Action skill duration will be amazing for that setup. I'm not sure if you can get melee damage at the bottom, but you can get it on the top. Try to get it if you can. For the shield, I like the swapping. I like a body rune. Obviously, the swapping is my enchantment, but I like a body rune because this 20% bonus fire damage helps us, as I mentioned, trigger extra exploit the weakness stack on top of our lightning from the lightning hiders and the dark from the dark hiders, the lightning from this. And it gives us extra healing on Q. It gives us extra maximum HP, at least the one I've got. And I think it's nice, but if you feel like you need more survivability, aim for something like this. If you need more survivability, something like 8000 capacity or so. Here, ideally, you would have one of the following armors. Diamond Gauntlets is not bad. Sure, especially this one. Increase crit hit chance while standing still though. Dark magic efficiency and lightning damage. Ideally you would have something with Graveborn power instead of Stabbo Mancer power. That means Cultist instead of Assassin. Another good base would be the Paradigm. But you want a Paradigm that converts 50% of your spell damage into melee and ability. Because you have a solid amount of spell damage and you ideally would want to convert, well, not convert it, but increase your melee and ability, particularly the melee, with the spell damage. So a Paradigm, make sure spell damage is increasing the melee. That's what you want. Melee increased by spell damage. So there's a diamond gauntlets for different elements. If you find one with dark damage, the same way those are with lightning and poison, it's not gonna be bad. But lightning is the second best shot. The third best is gonna be fire if you're using the body rune. Then in terms of quos, if you find a quo, ideally you want dark. Lightning is second best, fire is third best. And if you want to do something interesting, go frost quo. So you can stack frost damage with this fire, with the lightning, and with the dark damage, and then you get an extra stack of that skill. But it's only extra 6% damage from all sources. But the frost will help you. It will help you with extra damage to frozen enemies. But again, that will sacrifice the lightning damage, because it will convert the lightning damage from the hydras, but you still have lightning from the live wire. Then what else? Deathless, I haven't gotten one to try, so I'm not sure if it will work well with this build. Probably won't. Something that's not bad is Head of the Snake. It will teleport hydras that have been left where there are no enemies next to you, and it's nice. That means you keep your hydras where you are, where your enemies are. But sometimes the hydras keep killing enemies if you're far away from them and the enemies spawn next to them and they're still up. So it works sometimes to just have it without Head of the Snake. And this one is also not bad. But again, I wouldn't recommend it on the Calamity. As for Corrupted Plate Mail, it's amazing. If you can get a good one, obviously use it. Skills that I would say are important for us. This one, higher priority than that one. This one, good priority. This one also. So those two are good. This one is good for us. This one is good for us, and this one is good for us from items. This one as well, by the way, to be honest. So those are the ones that I would look for in items. So I wouldn't. I would say Dark Pact, Arsenal, Follow Up, Fateful Trials, and Dark Hydra are the priorities. This one is second tier, with this one and maybe some of the others you can get. This one maybe also second tier priority. And I think for spells you would want something like a Buffmeister with ideally dark damage, or lightning, or fire. One of those three. Ideally dark though. Tier 1 dark, tier 2 will be lightning, tier 3 will be fire. And for an item, I would say dark magic damage, Graveborn power priority, action skill. I mean, if you think you really need the cooldown rate and the Q skill is not enough, sure, get some. Gun magazine size is obviously something you don't want. You would want stuff like all damage, or all damage dealt, or if you can get cooldown, not cooldown but duration, or dark magic efficiency, or even shield capacity or HP would be nice. There are all sorts of things that could work well for you. In terms of bases, this one is Frenzied Rat. Frenzied Rat would be amazing. Keep is obviously nice. Overflow Bloodback, not a bad one as well. But I would say Frenzied Rat is in the top from things that you would like. to have as a base. There was one other one that was with minion synergy. I don't think I've got it here, but in any case, I would say Frenzied Rat is amazing. So if you can get one, that's it. Now for the enchantments, keep in mind you cannot stack one enchantment that is the same. So if you have something that gives you, for example, like this one, on spellcast increase lightning damage by 30% on your weapon, on your gun, and you get it on another item, it won't stack. You will only get the 30%. This is how I believe it works. I can't confirm, but I think that's how it works. So try to get different things. Try to get increases to lightning or dark or melee damage as much as possible, or even fire if you can get the other ones, but eventually try to get... this one is amazing. While action skill is active, element damage 50%. This works amazingly well if you stack 3 different elements, or at least 2, the lightning and the dark, if you can stack it from 2 sources. And something else that's amazingly nice will be the snake sticks enchantment that I've got right now. And you can even try to get this one. On action skill start, increase melee damage by 40% for 10 seconds. Other things, yeah, just look at the list. And when it comes to mid ranks, prioritize what you think you need at that moment for that build. Stats that are amazing to get early if you're a new player and you don't have much mid ranks. I would say prioritize things like intelligence from the Archmage, and eventually move on to things like maybe spell damage if you can reach it, or just max out whatever you feel is needed, like fire damage would go very well with that setup. Blade Master, you have very nice amount of useful things for this build. First of all, there's dark magic damage, there's strength for crits, and there's constitution for survivability. And obviously you have melee damage over there, but you would want melee swing speed. Melee swing speed will be crucial. You can put melee crit chance and melee crit damage for later, and prioritize maybe the dark magic and the swing speed and those stats here, but eventually the things here, all of them are useful. Under Deadeye, I would say dexterity is not that much of a priority since we have a Stabbo and we already have a lot of crit chance, but I would say movement speed would be good to get early, and maybe then you can get dexterity and then you can try and get the other stuff, which again doesn't do much for this build because we're not using our guns much, but it's good to have them eventually. And on Druid, I would say companion damage and attunement would be good priorities. Obviously woodwork you would want to get as well, that 100%. And I would say don't go for ability damage until later on, but lightning damage you could get early. So if you get attunement, companion and lightning damage first, that's good. Wisdom you don't need as much on that setup, so that thing and ability damage could be probably the last things you get from this tree. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer want to be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end, Struck Web. Keep it cool until next time, and goodbye.